My name is Marta, and I work for Creative Words, an Italian LSP that focuses on workflow optimization and AI integrations, especially over the past year, as we all know. Let's take a quick look at the overview of this presentation. So after making sure we're all aligned on the concepts of generative AI and large language models, I have seen during the survey that it's an even result. So for some of you, we'll go over concepts that you are probably already familiar with. For others, not so familiar. So we'll just try to be all aligned. And then we will move on to prompting, and we'll introduce the concept of variables in prompt engineering. After that, we'll narrow down the topic by providing real examples of the main notions that we will uncover. And while drawing conclusion, we'll talk about risks and ethical concerns and implications, and then leave the discussion open for questions and further ideas if you have any. So let's start off by talking about generative AI. So I'm sure each of us, although not very familiar with generative AI, we have all heard about it, either generative AI, Gen AI, or generative artificial intelligence. Well, this is because if you recall, about a year ago, the beginning of 2023 marked quite a milestone in the field of technology and linguistics. So OpenAI released the most updated version at the time of ChatGPT. Without delving too much into the historical steps of this, let's just build in ourselves a bit of criticism and think about how this has actually changed the perspective of technology, as it gave the opportunity to non-savvy users to feel independent and autonomous in using one of the most compelling pieces of technology. And this is something I try to stress every day, both in my personal and professional life, because this concept, the fact of being non-savvy in AI and being able to use it, I think is the key point of the whole generative AI and LLM story. But leaving alone such considerations, let's quickly also refresh its definition, the definition of Gen AI. Generative AI is a branch of artificial intelligence that focuses on creating new content or ideas based on training data. So essentially, we can say that it's a technology that generates valuable, unique, and original content without human intervention in the creation phase. We can agree that this is quite groundbreaking, as it's the first time that an AI is generating content that simulates human behavior. And among the various types of content that this type of artificial intelligence can create, we can find images, text, video, and so on and so forth. For my own personal experience and for what I know, I will now focus on text, also because we're going to talk about LLMs, but let's see that afterwards. So these models basically contain an extensive artificial neural networks inspired by the billions of neurons that are in our brain. So basically, it's a sort of reproduction of what happens in our head when we think. So where does the power of this lie? The power lies in the ability to produce content that goes beyond replication, and that's oftentimes almost indistinguishable from content created by human hands. And thus, it opens up a world of opportunities for automating, for example, content creation, an answer that I have seen quite often in the survey, reducing the burden on human creators. In this presentation, we'll focus on marketing content creation. So this is really important. And here I also quoted a study conducted by Capterra UK and published by the English newspaper The Times through a large-scale survey across UK companies that showed that a staggering 96% of employees who use generative AI technologies feel that generative AI had has increased their productivity. And the three most significant uses are text editing, text creation, and analytics and reporting. Kind of like the results of the survey, quite expected, but these are not the only use cases. But it's good to see that the percentage is very high. So a concept that is very often linked to generative AI is that of large language models. But what are they? So large language models are oftentimes considered synonyms to generative AI, but that is incorrect because LLMs are simply, inverted commas, a specialized class of AI models that use natural language processing to understand and to generate human-like text-based content in response. So unlike generative AI models, which have a broad applications across various fields, LLMs are specifically designed for handling language-related tasks. They are trained on very large sets of data and are capable of carrying out various language-related tasks, including, of course, text generation. So they generate text based on our prompts, using information they have learned from the data they were trained upon. But we'll dive deep into the concept of prompts later, so let's just leave that for now. When it comes to AI models, I very much like the expression that men learn from books and machines learn from data, as I think it fully encompasses all the critical aspects that need to be taken into consideration when dealing with machine learning models. Because, of course, the quality of the training data are the basics of the output of our models. And so what can LLMs do? Of course, the list would be super long, so we'll just focus on the three steps that I have reported here. So first thing first, text generation. We all know that ChatGPT has opened our eyes. LLMs can generate text. They can generate text on, as we said, the prompts they receive. So using information learned from the text they have been trained on. So basically, these models are trained on huge amounts of corpora, and they will use this corpora to create new content. Texts that can be generated include, for example, creative content, texts for chatbots, product descriptions for marketing purposes, and even entire articles, poems, or any specific text that may be needed. Then we have machine translation. So LLMs can be trained on bilingual datasets and can be used to automatically translate texts from one language to another. And then, of course, NLU, natural language understanding. So they can understand the meaning of text and answer questions. And this is quite groundbreaking also. And they can answer questions or perform tasks and that require the actual understanding of natural language. For example, they can summarize articles, they can revise text, they can create stories. So indeed, one of the fields in which generative AI and LLMs have proven more effective is that of content creation and generation, which is the focus of this deck. So here, technology, focusing on marketing purposes, enables marketers and copywriters to streamline, and I'd like to stress and underline numerous times this term, content generation processes, enabling professionals, and so enabling them to focus on more valuable and impactful tasks. And how do they do this? So, well, for instance, writers can struggle to come up with new and original ideas. So brainstorming support of generative AI models is crucial, not only in the draft outlining, but also in articles, social media, post creation, and optimization. And what are the advantages of this? So we can see already that it's not just limited, the intervention of generative AI and LLMs is not just limited to the generation phase, but we have also the brainstorming ideas. So we start seeing how technology must be seen as a support to our work. It's not replacing the job, like the things that we were doing, but it's supporting us in performing our tasks better. So let's go back to that. So how do these models brainstorm ideas, write outlines, drafts, and generate visual content, for instance? So first thing first, they what are the advantages? First thing first, the escalation part, which is, I think, one of the most impactful. So with these models allow us to produce huge amount of data. And with the increasing demand for content, businesses often struggle to produce high quality content that is also consistent. And generative AI can help in generating bulk amounts of content quickly and efficiently without, fingers crossed, compromising on quality. Then there's the personalization. So as we said, one of the characteristics of such models is that of being able to analyze huge amount of data. So performing analysis on huge data sets in the blink of an eye. And this allows Gen AI to create personalized content that's based on users' needs, for instance. This step is particularly interesting for sentiment analysis, which is an AI use case that's still not much investigated, yet very interesting and, in my opinion, with very high potential. And so personalization, efficiency. So as we said, perhaps the most recognized ability of AI is that of streamlining. So we go back to the concept of streamlining content creation processing. So by automating certain aspects of content generation, businesses can save time and resources, allowing for more focus on other tasks or tasks that cannot be performed by the machine. And then adaptability. So last but not least, generative AI can easily adapt to changing trends and market demands, going back to the analysis skills that we have mentioned when we were talking about personalization. So technology can adjust content strategies, can ensure that businesses stay relevant in their market. So we mentioned the concept already of prompts. So at the core of generative AI and large language models is the act of prompting. So we have to communicate and to interact with the machine. So what is a prompt? A prompt is basically an instruction, an input given to the model that serves as a starting point for generating text. So prompts are the pieces of text that we give the machine to get the output that we want to receive. The structure of prompts can vary in length and complexity depending on the task and on the desired outcome. So they can take different forms, such as language like sentences, questions, and they can be as short as a word, like a sentence, a single word, or as complex as a paragraph, depending always on the expected outcome. So this is also very important, I think. So when we interact with, for instance, with a machine, we need to have consciousness of what we want to achieve from the machine. Only in that way we can guide it to providing us with that outcome that we are requesting. So to sum up, the purpose of prompts is to provide the AI model with enough information to generate the relevant text. So try and think of prompts as placeholders where inputs are fed into generative AI tools and serve to guide to guide them to shape the output. So the things that I was saying before. So there are two ways of writing prompts. So there are two sides of writing prompts. The first side is that of constructing and crafting the prompt. So the step that lays the groundwork for generating high quality content. The second part is optimization. So we want to optimize the prompt in sort of a feedback loop. We want to gradually improve it. So this step requires the refining, the fine-tuning, and the enhancement of the initial prompt according to the results that we are getting. So it's sort of like a back and forth. So we keep our enhancement into this feedback loop with the machine. So we analyze the response and we modify the input and so on and so forth. So in addition to setting the main criteria and the framework of the output that we want, prompts serve also to standardize the content generation process. So by using prompts, we can actually try and ensuring consistency across different contents by adding the so-called variables. Variables are, again, sort of placeholders for certain information, certain elements that can be customized for each generated instance. So I'm not sure if you are familiar with the concept of variables, if you use them when you do your prompting or not, but now we'll see a few examples just to make sure, again, that we're all aligned. And so let's take the example here. Here, we are focusing on marketing content, as I was saying. So both prompts are requesting the AI to generate content for a social media post. You can see at the top, single prompt, simple, requesting the generation of social media content. And at the bottom, you see the same prompt that is standardized. So the same prompt using variables. So we can decide to use a prompt with variables here, for instance, to define the products that we want to communicate, to define the features, to define the benefits, allowing the AI to generate unique content for each instance while maintaining a standardized structure. This perhaps is confusionary right now, but trust me that we'll see a little bit further and clearer example later on in the next few slides. So what prompt standardization with variables not only allows us to generate efficient content at scale, but it also ensures that the AI model understands the specific content in which context should be generated. So it contributes to, again, streamlining the content creation process by reducing the need for manual intervention and fine-tuning at the phase of prompting itself. In practice, how does this work? So first, we define a structure. So a standardized structure or template for our prompts. This structure is made of a fixed part and a variable part. The fixed part provides the overall structure. So here, for example, in this example, it would be generate persuasive copy for a social media post promoting something, highlighting something else and something else in order to result. And so the fixed part provides the context, while the variable part allows us to insert specific details and information that can change over time. So let's make it more practical and let's see the output of this request as well as some other examples. So here, hopefully you guys can all see, we can see the results of the simple prompt on the prompts of the slide before. So on the left, we have the simple prompt. And on the right-hand side, we have the, let's call it advanced prompt. So let's not forget, like this is important, that using variables, like the objective of using variables is not that of generating higher quality results. Well, of course it is, but that should be like the main objective of using generative AI independently. But we use variable to make sure that we can guarantee that the quality of the output is consistent over time, while being flexible enough to uphold specific target audiences and language requirements. So this ability to understand a sort of meta level of text allows for a more dynamic interaction with the language model, and to, again, define the context and change it over time, and change the information, the specific information over time. So how do we declare a variable? A variable can be declared like using square brackets, angle brackets, curly brackets, double underscores, anything. I use for my personal preference, I use curly brackets, but you can use also other things, you know, like it's not a rule. So I just want to underline another concept that I think it's very, very crucial. That is that we must keep in mind when using any type of language model. Now, for the sake of this presentation, we are using ChatGPT, but please let's not forget that that's not the only one. Like for all the examples that you will see, I have used ChatGPT 3.5, which is the free version. But again, it's not the only, like it would be quite a mistake to draw everything down just to it. But please, let's also keep in mind that large language models are by definition non-deterministic by nature. So what does this mean? It means that you will get different results every time and each time you run the same prompt. And please keep this in mind, because this is, I think, a crucial awareness to have when interacting with such technology. So let's see another example. Marketing as use case. In this example is a clear representation of what we were just saying. If you look at it, our fixed parts say nothing about the content that we want to generate, but everything about the context in which we want the content to be generated. So everything, the quality of the output, the topic of the output, everything depends and is in the hands of the variables that we have added here. This approach is what actually can tries to guarantee consistency, as we were saying, and tries to guarantee the volumes that a company, a business in the market that we are at the moment is needing to be present in its industry. So to be branded and recognizable. So if we generate content, of course, like everything will have to undergo human supervision, but we'll get on that later on. But I'm sure you realize that we can all agree that by creating a prompt that has fixed and variable parts, we are trying to standardize. We're trying to we want to have our content branded and recognizable across different channels. This, of course, has like two sides, but I mean, let's dive into that later. So again, the same thing happens here. We know the structure that our content must have, but we leave it open for editing and creativity by our, at this stage, beloved variables. As I was mentioning, all examples are done via ChatGPT. But again, please feel like, I hope that not all of you are simply using ChatGPT. And so we can, of course, experiment with variations by like this allows us to experiment by substituting different values for the same variables. This allows us to generate, for example, here, social media posts for multiple platforms and different industry and different verticals. So in this example, standardization enables us to create customizable social media content, providing accurate and relevant information based on the specific needs and conditions that we give the machine through the variables themselves. So in the end, we can say that prompt standardization with variables enables easy experimentation, as we were saying. We can create multiple variation by replacing the variables with different information and details, different values. And we analyze by which combinations, we can analyze which combinations make the most desirable results. And this allows us to fine-tune and optimize our content generation process. So as we were saying, just also try not to forget that we're talking about, like, what, for example, ChatGPT, the name itself is ChatGPT. So the name itself tells us that we need to have an interaction with the machine. And that is the interaction we were talking about before. So the feedback loop that allows us to improve and optimize our prompts and to strive towards the most expected and desired output. One example more. Here as like, oh no, wait, sorry. Okay. So we have seen example of prompts and outputs, but let's take a step back and try to standardize the way in which prompts should be written, focusing on the best practices. Again, for ease of understanding, let's just talk about ChatGPT, but let's not forget. Of course, so the increasing use of such systems has opened up a new era for professional skills, so much that a new profession has also been created, that is prompt engineering. Prompt engineers are the experts in the field of prompting. So they're basically the professionals responsible for interacting with the machine, so that there is a straight line that goes that links the prompt to the desired output. And why are these skills so important? We have said that already, but let's stress this concept a bit more. So the quality of the data we input strongly affects the quality of the output we'll receive. In the same way in which the data upon which the machine was the model was trained affects the output of the result, in the same way we can guide the output and the use of such data, with our prompts. It's kind of like a recipe, you know, like the better the ingredients we use to cook a specific dish, the more delicious the result will be. And the list of ingredients could be endless, but let's have a look at those consistent best practices that we try and that we take into consideration. You always hear in creative words, but that set also a good basis for the development of highly optimized prompt. So when crafting a prompt, we must be specific, so clearly define the scope and the context of the desired output. We want to set a stage, so we want to provide information or background information to contextualize the prompt. Then we want to add an action or a task, so we want to incorporate actionable language or specific tasks within the prompt, so that the AI output can, so that the AI model can generate targeted content. Then we want to provide examples, so including relevant examples or references assists the AI model to understand our intention better. And we want, of course, to avoid bias, very hard, very under discussion topic, hot topic. But we want to try and eliminate as much as possible, for instance, subjective language or biased cues, so that the output itself is not to be considered bias. Drawing down to conclusions, risks and ethical approaches. So, of course, all of this comes with at a high price of risks and ethical concerns. If you think about the very kickoff idea of this presentation, the user-centric methodology that evolves around tools like ChatGPT makes technology available to non-tech parties that have very too little knowledge about how algorithms work. And I think this is totally fine, as I don't think that the expectation is that of creating a mass of experts, that all-knowing users around the world. But I think that awareness must be raised to hinder and to minimize the improper uses of AI. So I am not an expert in the field myself, so I will just limit my intervention in this regard to that specific topic that concerns the field of linguistics and language services, and that is the quality of the output. Of course, the quality of AI-generated text is crucial nonetheless, but I think this is even more important in an industry that makes linguistic quality its core business. And the limitations of AI systems are well known, and they include reproducibility, bias, hallucination, and so on and so forth. But how can we actually avoid their occurrences? Well, the answer is absolutely multifaceted. So I will just go over the way briefly. I see, Stefan, I think I'm out of time, but I'm gonna wrap it up. So let's just go. So the way in which we try to hinder this and to control this in creative works. So there's no official or formal regulation that defines the acceptability criteria of AI-generated content. So we decided to find our own way of discerning. So who knows me knows that I'm a very hyper supporter of the human-in-the-loop approach. I am a linguist myself, and I have had the luck to run into AI way before ChatGPT was released, let's say. And for this reason, I've had also the opportunity to develop my strong idea on the AI will destroy us all mentality. So without doubt, technology is speeding up increasingly. And the only way in which we can succumb to it is by hindering it. Technology goes on even if we don't want to. So we might as well just take it hand in hand and proceed with it, trying to find opportunities other than threats and risks. So as I was saying, in Creative Works, we have responded to this urge by drafting our own quality control regulation that sees human professionals always at the center of the game and at the center of the AI pipeline. So we have done it to safeguard ourselves, but to safeguard also the industry itself. So if you want, we can talk about it later. But in the meantime, I think it's crucial to understand that, as I was saying before, understanding that AI is to be seen as a support for our job. So it's our catalyst, and we must be super curious to know and learn how it works, because only by developing awareness we can build criticism, and we can then use it correctly, and we can educate ourselves to the use and the correct and proper use of the tools. And I think I don't have any more time, so here are a few references and wrap it up. Sorry. Thank you all.